Hello, I hope you're all doing well. Right, get started. So today we're going to be talking about a big subject and quite a big process. It's ego death and integration is the title. So I'll talk about the subject and what they've had to say. And then, as usual, at the end, I will then go into channeling light language codes to help with this process. Okay, so please do like and share and subscribe to the channel because it all helps other people see the information and can help them too. Okay, so oh, and also at the end, I want to tell you about something very exciting that is going to be happening next weekend. Okay. So what do we mean by ego death? We hear that phrase sort of bandied around, don't we? We're quite familiar with it. But a lot of us perhaps don't really understand what we mean by it or what the process actually is. So we're going to explore that. Well, first of all, ego death implies that the ego is a bad thing. But as part of us, that implies that we are then self-judging. Okay, so it does carry that tone of sort of, something very negative and something to be got rid of, and a part of ourselves that we don't like and therefore judge. Okay, so which is why what they wanted to discuss today was actually the process of ego death being one of integration. Okay, and also why it's such an important part of our soul journey, because as we heal, we can then integrate all parts of ourselves, including our ego. And through that, we can then come back into wholeness, okay? And therefore remembering who we really are. So let's get into it. What is the ego? Well, the ego is that part of us by which we define ourselves in relation to the world around us. So that includes our self-identity and how we relate to others and how we relate to our own experiences as we move through the world and life. And it functions in various ways. So, for example, it helps us to modify our behaviour. And our responses and reactions to things. It motivates us to set goals and then to work towards achieving those goals. But it also strives to keep us safe where we may perceive that there is a threat to our identity. Okay, now if we have experienced trauma, okay, and we all have in one form or another. It may be extreme in such as cases of abuse, but nevertheless, we all do carry some trauma. So as we experience this, situations in which we don't feel safe, okay, it serves a vital purpose because it will shift into sort of control mode, if you like. So, and that's in order to keep us safe in those situations. So it seeks to control the situation. It can do that in a variety of different ways, okay? I mean, it is, in extreme cases, capable of causing our consciousness to split, if you like, okay? This is very often the case where people report that they have not remembered trauma until later on in life. There may be a significant trigger which brings those memories back. So that would be an example of that, okay? But also, there are many known responses to threat and feeling unsafe. The fight, flight, fawn and freeze responses are usually the ones. But the problem can come about where we kind of get stuck there. And after the situation, that threat has passed, we find that actually our self-identity has shifted more permanently, okay? And also our perception of the world and our and others around us has shifted with that, okay? So our perception of the world then becomes quite fear-based. So we're sort of hyper-vigilant a lot of the time, because we believe that, you know, we are under threat in some way, or likely to be at any moment. And therefore our responses, our behaviours and our beliefs, our mindset, all becomes fear-based. I mean, to some extent we all carry fear, all of us. And there is a very basic level of fear common to human beings on this planet. Because when we come into this planet, we believe that we are alone and separate from source, from who we really are, and from our soul. And if we're not conscious of that belief, we certainly feel it. Okay, it can be unconscious, but within our subconscious. So we all come onto this planet with that, and in addition, everything on this planet has been programmed to prevent connection with our divinity and with our soul. And we lose the ability to do that when we arrive here. So, I mean, just to explain that, we lost the ability to connect naturally when our DNA and the Earth's energetic grid was altered very, very long time ago. Right, so we all carry that sense of separation and fear, okay? And that's why it's important that we do get to a place where we understand that is not the case, and that we are connected, and we've always been connected, and we can connect, and that we're able to integrate that fear, heal those traumas, step out of that kind of false identity that we've believed or constructed, and come into alignment with our true self. Okay, letting go of that need to control in response to fear, and stepping into our true self-identity, our true identity, sorry. So how do we do that? Well, it requires that we do the work. We have to do the work. We have to heal. Okay. So oftentimes it includes inner child work, but it always includes identifying, in cases of trauma, identifying the source of the pain, the source of the threat, okay? And then identifying how that makes us feel, okay? So when we go back and we look at that, how does that make us feel, all right? Including in our bodies. Where do we feel it in our bodies? Okay. And sitting with that emotion, not rejecting it, not resisting it, not fighting it, but allowing it in a way that we couldn't allow it at the time. Because, as we explained, our ego stepped in to keep us safe. Okay. And that's a great job that it did do that at the time, quite often. But now it's time to go back and allow us to process those situations and those emotions so that we can let them go. We may also experience shame that comes up. So there's often an element of forgiving ourselves for emotions that come up. We don't have to feel ashamed of those emotions or our reactions and responses. We can forgive ourselves for those. With compassion, not judgment, okay, and not self-justification either, which we'll get onto a little bit later. And really thanking our ego for the good job it did do at the time, okay? So the ego, again, remember that the ego is part of us, okay? It's not something to be feared in itself. It's not something that's bad, okay? So, right. But you know, the ego, during this process, the ego will cling to its version of the truth. Okay, it likes to keep, it wants to keep those programs running, okay, because it believes that it's keeping us safe in doing so. All right, so we need to be absolutely honest, and all through these messages they kept saying honesty and truth. That word just kept coming out over and over again. So yes, honesty with ourselves is absolutely vital. So, you know, things to think about and to ask ourselves are what are our triggers? You know, where and when do we feel that we're put back into that fight, flight, I always forget, fawn, freeze kind of mode, okay? Where do we avoid taking responsibility for our behaviour and our reactions? Or where do we justify them? Okay, so it's sort of everybody else's fault, or it's because this happened, because that happened. Again, that's the ego protecting that false identity. Okay, so and justifying perhaps our behaviour or our response because we didn't feel safe. Okay, so where do we do that still, where there's not a need to anymore because we are safe now? So, you know, where are we justifying or not taking responsibility for our behaviour and reactions? Where are we holding on to a story about ourselves, or a belief about the world, or other people, you know? Where are we holding on to a particular image of ourselves because we find it convenient and quite helpful? All right? Where are we avoiding change? And where are we avoiding doing the healing work? You know, kind of fearing, again, that fear, sort of emotion of fear. Where are we fearing the darker aspects of ourselves? We just don't want to go there. We just don't want to look at it. Yeah? Are there areas of ourselves that we're resisting looking at? Okay. And where are, I thought this was very good, where are our actions not aligned with our true self, which is love? All right, so we can ask, where do our words and our actions not match? Okay, because that's a good place to start. It will indicate where we are misaligned from our true self. All right. But, you know, as I said, this isn't a process of judgment, all right, but one of compassion. And our aim, remember, is to integrate those shadow aspects of ourselves, so that we can come into integration and wholeness, all right, oneness. So, you know, recognize our ability to change, they said, and remember that we are both darkness and light. Okay, so don't go down the judgment route. Stay in compassion and forgiveness and love. And at that point, they said, they quoted Jesus' words, it's the case that literally the truth will set you free, which I thought was lovely. Right, so I've said, you know, this is work that can only be done by us. All right, we're always supported in our healing work, but it can only be done by us. And it's work that we came here to do. So we came here at this time to break existing programs, existing paradigms on this planet. But that work takes place within each of us. So it's really important work, actually, isn't it? Not only do we benefit, but it's important for the planet and for the collective too. It's quite encouraging. They did say it's not easy. It's not easy. It takes courage. It takes strength. But going back to the phrase of the ego death, we remember, if we think of if we want to describe the integration of the ego and shadow parts of ourselves as ego death, then remember that there's always a rebirth. Okay, so in the cosmos, on this planet, in nature, there is always rebirth. So keep positive. And remember that we're not fighting that ego, okay? We're loving it. So they also said when it becomes confusing, all right, or when it becomes really, really difficult, okay, and old patterns are beginning to crumble, lean on our spirit team or our higher self or our guides or however you like to describe them. Okay, go with them, lean on them, because they're parts of ourselves that are there to help us with this. As we said, we're not alone in this journey. So to that end, stay also connected to Mother Earth. Also stay connected to our divinity, source energy, our soul, okay? Because it's reminding us of the truth that we are connected, always have been, always will be. That's who we are. That's our true identity, okay? So stay connected with them. Also connect with our heart center. Well, that's really how we do connect with them, through our heart center. But stay connected. If we need to during the day, place your hand on your heart. Go back within. Go back to your heart center. Because we're teaching the heart to open and to trust and to let go of fear. Just a couple of other little points that they had was to physically practice self-love. All right, so look after our bodies. We always say that, don't we? And one last thing was, give it time. Okay, it takes time, and that there are very often layers to this. Well, there are layers to this. Okay, so healing is not doesn't have an end point. It's not like, we get to our destination and yep, all better now. Okay, so it's something that takes time, and there are layers. So we've mentioned going back and identifying our triggers. Very often when we do that, we go through a period of healing, and then we take some time to sit back and sort of rest a bit, and then up pops another trigger. Something will happen, or somebody says something, or we go to a place and there's another trigger, and we think, I thought I dealt with this. I thought I'd healed this and got over this. But that's our higher self showing us that there are layers, okay? And there'll be another little pocket over here where, we're being shown that our ego has some healing to do with our ego and some integration work to do. And that's okay. That's fine. It's great, actually, isn't it? Because it needs to come up so that we can see it. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to go into doing the codes now. All right, right. And just take a moment. Yeah. So these are going to be codes around self-love and compassion, and opening our heart centers to the truth, to unity and wholeness and healing. Okay? Yeah. All right. So I'll go into channeling. Just sit back a little bit. Nasekia no sheanaha, Lasekia Takayanaha, Eshokia Sakantataria Talia, Sea Cantara, Tara, Teteria Tatara. An important subject today, and we hope that the information will help you along. We do want to emphasize that you are never alone, and we are always here to help. So you can listen to these codes as you go on your journey, your journey of integration, and coming into the wholeness of who you really are. We will begin. Kuiaka makitaka oyon koyon makaya nakaya kayara ekaya koyaka kakaya tekaria takara etekeria takakaria takara tetaria taka eshu eres ekataya shiato kayamaya nakia kutikia kono koya nakayasha Eshea kuyo kumakala sekaya takaya nara. Eshete yakara. Eshoshi yamakaya katara hakaya raya tasha. Eseke yokaya naha. Eshea kuya nakaya layata yanasha. Eseke turia matala. Ete araya taya shatanara. Esukuyo mrata. Eshea takatara. E kuyo rokuyo kuya nakayada. E kuya kakaya nakaya. E kaya rakaya kukuna kikia. E kaya kukuno kakaya kaya nakakikia keteke kakaya kokaka. E teke nakaya naku. Ahi, aha, hihi haka. E hu, ahia nakakakaya. E hia naka kukia nakaka. Ahia nakutukakara. Atakaka. Esteyaka. Eteya, eteya kakaka. Eteya kakakaya. Ekoya kakaka. Ekoya kakakaya. Ekoya takakaka. Etakaya naka. Niatasha. Oteya mara. Nekia roya malayata. Enekia nara. Ese kuya malaya tisha. Esheya kuya lara. Eseki anari alura maha. Ele que ala sua shea maha. Ele que anala sua na maha yanasha. Ele que anoho yana mashaya lata. Shea kuya maha yanala. Shea shuya nala. Eriala ularia te que alara. She sea shushaya maha. Ele que ariata. Shuya maha. Etekele atariante ya sheya taka. No sheya mataya laya. Sheya sakantaya. Erruya masheya taka. Ente ya laisha. Ushu ya makaya naya laya sheya taka. Eneshe eke ya naha. Ishu ya sakantara. Inara. Nga. Ineteria. Dasha. Sua. Oh, lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Good. Right. Oh, yes, I know what it was. Yes, I was going to tell you about next weekend. So if you go onto my Facebook page, you'll be able to see links to it, all about it. There are many of us that work with light language that are coming together to deliver a light language festival. Okay, it's all very exciting, and we've been working in the background, putting it together and connecting with one another, and the energy is really good, really beautiful, and there's already been so much that has come out of it for us as light workers, but we're just sort of jumping at the bit now to share it with you. So there'll be lots and lots of different workshops. I'll be leading a session on channeling galactic beings. Okay, and there are just so many others. So please do look at the list and see if there's any there that you feel really drawn to. Okay, good. Okay, so lovely. All right, well, I can feel that energy building just talking about it. Yeah, good. Listen, take care, all of you. All right, it is a big subject that we've been discussing today, but remember that we're all in it together in terms of we're all doing this work, doing this healing, raising a vibration, and coming in, bringing that truth of who we really are, bringing forward that increased connection that this planet lost so long ago, but is now coming back. All right, so it's good times. All right, lots of love. Bye.